Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is starting to approach, and Uncommon Goods makes gift giving less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. I actually got my partner a hummingbird feeder because he loves hummingbirds, and we have them come to our patio from time to time. It's also stunning. It looks like a piece of art made from hand-blown glass. I love buying items from Uncommon Goods because they are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the US. You're getting beautiful gifts and supporting artists and small independent businesses. Many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches, so shop now before they sell out this holiday season. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/dateable. That's uncommongoods.com/dateable for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
Yes, we all know the quality of makeup and skincare products are important, but have you ever thought about how you apply them is even more important for results? Since 2019, Anissa Beauty has been leading the way in creating vegan and cruelty-free makeup and skincare brushes that are safe for your skin and the planet and are designed to optimize the application and absorption of skincare products. Their popular Pinnacle foundation brush has made such a big difference for me. I used to hate wearing foundation because it always felt so caked on, but with this brush, I can use so little product and it goes on flawlessly due to its patented triangular shape. Anissa Beauty's brushes deliver value and quality like no other. The same goes for their Pinnacle Skin Brush, which has completely changed how I apply skincare. I no longer use my hands to apply my products. Check out the Pinnacle Foundation Brush as well as several other amazing brushes at anissabeauty.com and get 30% off site-wide with the code DATEABLE. That's ANISA beauty.com. And don't forget to use the code DATEABLE. Hi, I'm Yue Xu.
And I'm Julie Kraftchick.
We're active daters turned dating insiders.
Here to dive into everything modern dating and relationships.
Welcome to Dateable. Hello, friends.
Welcome back to another episode of Dateable.
You get some intimate conversation today with Julie and I as we sit here in a quiet room. Just kidding.
That's like the sexy voice coming out, Yue's radio voice.
I'm practicing. Side gig, you know?
Is that how you're going to read our audiobook?
Should I? I actually have been thinking about that. Oh, that's a really good point. So Julie and I are about to embark on like 14 hours of recording our audiobook. So 28 hours combined, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's not that long for you as a listener someday to read. Just putting that out there. People are like, ugh.
Yeah, for all your long drives across the country. No. But I've been thinking about that because obviously we're going to read in our natural voices. We do podcasting. But like if there's a chance to do a character voice, like when we're quoting someone, I've been practicing my accents.
Oh my God. Like... I was like, who is like one of the experts? Dr. Raquel Peel. I'm thinking like the Australian accent.
Oh yeah, I'd be so terrible at that. Be so terrible at that. God. Yeah, or like, lower my voice when I'm quoting a man. I don't know. I'm stretching my vocal capacity. So yes, the sexy voice is part of my repertoire now, in case we need it.
In case we need it.
It's very lucrative business, reading erotica books, audiobooks.
It's true.
Very lucrative.
That's true. So Yue's side hustle.
You can look into it too. Hey, there's enough erotica books to go around for all of us to audio record. So I'm just saying. Doesn't have to be mine.
I'm like, how do we even transition to today's topic?
We don't need to. No, we do not. We just do a sharp left into today's topic, all about seeking validation, like the pick-me culture and why dating is so much harder than ever. Because many times we date for other people to approve us. And it could stem from childhood. We can get into this, but definitely me feeling like I was never picked, at school by my peers who are cooler definitely stems into my adult dating life where I feel like I need approval from everybody. I want to be liked by everybody.
I know. I definitely could tie it back because I was definitely what I would call a later bloomer. So like in high school, I remember going to prom with like my friend's now husband because like she had a different date.
Awkward.
And she wanted him to be there. Like that was what was going on for me. I think a lot of it's subconscious too. Like, I don't think that I would ever say I was dating for validation when I was dating. Those words would never come out of my mouth. But now, after years of reflection, I absolutely was. And I think it's because there's so much pressure and like societal conditioning that makes it feel like there's like this ivory tower up there of being in a relationship and you are saved and looking down on all the people that haven't. It makes dating more than just going out and meeting new people and having fun.
Yeah, it could be so simple and enjoyable. Yet we put ourselves in this pageant of dating where we're walking out in our best gear and being performative, trying to get the judges to vote for you, trying to get as many matches as possible. The amount of times we hear from many of our listeners who are like, I'm not getting enough matches on the dating apps. It's like, what is enough for you? Do you need everybody to swipe on you? Like, are you trying to date all of them? Does it really matter? And is it really a numbers game?
And I think it's natural with all the pressures that come from dating.
Sure.
I wanted to look up like what the formal definition of validation is, because I think you hear it used in a lot of different ways. And one of the definitions I found that I liked was the act of recognizing, affirming, or confirming the worth, accuracy, or legitimacy of something or someone. And I think in this case that we're talking about today, it's what we're calling the validation trap, which is a key component of our upcoming book, How to Be Dateable. If you've been with us for a bit, we're sharing some of what we call the traps of modern dating, these things that are happening in the culture that we're in that are holding us back. Like they're getting in our way and making dating harder and more miserable than it was. And what we want to do is lift these traps so we can all have better love lives and find the right relationship for us. So I think with the validation trap, it's letting dating define our worth instead of using it to find a good match.
And we want to normalize the fact that everybody seeks validation. It's not like there's a group of really enlightened people who don't need validation at all. Think about your childhood. I still go back to school. It's like being picked for dodgeball. Do kids still do that these days? Like, do they have dodgeball teams? But being picked for a team, being picked to be friends with somebody, being picked to eat with a group of people at lunch. It was always this wanting other people to pick you. And I also think like as our social circles grow smaller as we age, we also have less validation in our support group. So we seek that in dating now. When you're at work, you have your coworkers. When you're at school, you have other students and friends. But when you're like out there on your own, you almost want to build your posse of people. And maybe sometimes you think that comes from people liking you on a dating app.
Yeah. And I think, obviously with love and relationships, like that's the most intimate and core to anyone, right? So it's natural that we want to feel chosen. And I think it's actually like there's a side of it, like of course you want your person to choose you and you want to be with someone that chooses you. We're not saying that. The problem is though when it overtakes the dating experience and when it becomes all about like feeling validated opposed to being like, is this person actually the person I want to be with? Like, do I enjoy this person? Or am I trying to win them over to prove something either to them, my friends, or even myself?
And then we take that really personally. It's like when we get chosen, we take it personally. Oh, they're choosing me for me. I must be so special. You know, of all the people in the world, they chose me. And if we don't get chosen, oh, they didn't choose me because it's me.
Something's wrong.
Yeah, something's wrong. It's either like I'm very special or something's wrong. When a lot of the times in the dating experience, because it's a lot of trial and error, someone choosing or not choosing you may have nothing to do with you.
I think for me, I'm a very sensitive person, and this was a huge challenge for me in dating, that I took everything so personally. I made myself the center of everyone's world when in fact I probably wasn't. And it actually was like a wake-up call when I was with my ex, the one that I was on again, off again for years. Because I think for the first time, I like knew someone well enough that I was dating that I could see that it actually didn't have to do with me, why it wasn't working out. I think in the past, of course, like if you go on like 2 dates with someone and then they like ghost you, you don't know what's going on in their life.
No.
So a lot of times, especially if you're someone like me that takes dating too personally, I would always bring it back to me. Like I'm the common denominator, there's something wrong. But like, again, who knows what was going on in this person's life? But I think when we're in a place of seeking validation from others, these events get heightened, opposed to being like, I'm amazing, someone's so lucky to be with me.
But what is so interesting about what you just said is this is the shift that we need to think about is you are putting yourself as the main character in the story as to why someone chose or didn't choose you. Yet, you're not putting yourself in the driver's seat of the one choosing.
Right.
Isn't that interesting, right? You're like being very selective on when you become the main character. I would often want to be chosen by the people who had unusual circumstances like, oh, the bachelor who hasn't been in a relationship for 5 years, or the guy who's emotionally unavailable, or the person who is so cold and distant that I felt like I could be special and win them over. Yet if I put myself in the driver's seat and said, would I actually choose these people to be my partner? I 110% would have said no.
I had a total limiting belief that like basically I had no agency. And I think a lot of that comes from, a lot of the rules and the stuff that we're taught, especially as hetero women, to like lean back, let the men take charge. And you're just in a waiting game. And I 100% agree with you. I remember instances where someone would tell me they did not want to commit. And I was like, I can change them. And it almost made me like want to try more because I was now proving it to myself. That's toxic.
That gets so dangerous because your value is tied to other people's opinion of you when their opinion is your perceived opinion. It's not even the reality of it. I think about like your self-worth. If you don't know your self-worth and you go out there and ask people what they think you're worth, you're probably just going to take the first offer on the table.
Yeah.
If someone's like, your self-worth is worth $20. You're like, okay, I guess I'm worth $20. But if you know your self-worth, you know I'm worth $500 million. And you go out there and someone's like, I'll offer you $20. You're going to be like, no. That's not what I'm worth because my self-worth is not tied to this person's opinion of me.
Yeah. And I think it runs really deep. We're not like consciously being like, I'm not worthy. But I think in today's world, relationships are just like at this pedestal that like they're above being single. Like something is wrong with you if you're single. You're saved if you're in a relationship. Single is a status we're always trying to get out of. So I feel like it's one of those things where, someone comes along and you want to like tie to that because of like all of the societal pressures and weights that have been there.
And we just want to be saved. We want to be on that relationship island. And so whoever puts their hand out and says, I choose you, you're like, okay, I'll go with you.
So we're going to go into just some common reasons why we seek validation, how it relates to dating, and what we can do to start looking at dating as what it is and not taking it so personally. Before we do, though, let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors. Want to add some holiday cheer into the bedroom? Spice up your life using the natural power of cannabis with Via. We're obsessed with their best-selling High Love gummy that really intensifies any sexual experience. With its unique blend of pleasure-enhancing cannabinoids, libido-strengthening herbs, and a medium dose of THC, Via's really created one mind-blowing gummy. You can even get their High Love bundle either as an early present for yourself or a loved one. I personally like their TH-free gummies too. Their flow state is my fave because you guessed it, it puts me into that right focus. So whatever your threshold, they have you covered with the highest quality hemp sourced from trusted, independent owned American farms. If you're 21 plus, head to viahemp.com and use the code DATEABLE to receive 15% off. That's VIIA hemp.com and use the code DATEABLE at checkout. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Take your passion and pleasure to a whole new level with High Love from Via Hemp. Want to add some holiday cheer into the bedroom? Spice up your life using the natural power of cannabis with Via. We're obsessed with their best-selling High Love gummy that really intensifies any sexual experience. With its unique blend of pleasure-enhancing cannabinoids, libido-strengthening herbs, and a medium dose of THC, Via's really created one mind-blowing gummy. You can even get their High Love bundle either as an early present for yourself or a loved one. I personally like their TH-free gummies too. Their flow state is my fave because you guessed it, it puts me into that right focus. So whatever your threshold, they have you covered with the highest quality hemp sourced from trusted, independent owned American farms. If you're 21 plus, head to viiahemp.com and use the code DATEABLE to receive 15% off. That's VIIA hemp.com and use the code DATEABLE at checkout. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Take your passion and pleasure to a whole new level with high love from Via Hemp. So why do we do this? Why do we do this? I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to self-esteem. Mm-hmm. Like looking back on it, like I was mentioning, I think when I was looking for that validation from people that truly were not good partners for me in any way, and validation so my friends could see that I was with someone and that I could prove it to myself, it gave me a sense of worthiness. And that came from like this deep-seated belief that like I couldn't do better. Mm-hmm. And I think I like didn't fully grasp that at the time, but like I think when you are holding on to people that are blatantly wrong, a lot of it does come down to what's going on internally for you.
I think all of us have dealt with this, is the self-esteem. It's feeling that if people show you attention, it means that you can feel better about yourself. Even though there's internal work we all need to be doing, it's like it gives an instant dopamine hit if someone shows, that kind of positive attention.
What is it with the word self-esteem? I feel like there's something that's like, it almost eats at your self-esteem even more because it feels like there's something like broken with you when you're like, I have low self-esteem. But I do think it really comes down to, I would argue most of us, whether you're conscious of it or not, have a lot of built up trauma and past experiences.
Sure.
And maybe that's a better way of looking at it than like self-esteem. I think it all ties together. There's something like blocking a little, like even saying it now, I'm like, I don't know if I would have resonated back then that was like what was getting in my way.
I'm no scientist or psychologist or trained in any of that stuff. But I know. But I have heard many experts talk about how this all stems from the day we're born. Mm-hmm. Because as a fetus in the womb, you are given everything you need to survive without you asking for it. But the moment you leave and come into this world, now you have to fight for survival. And many of the ways we fight for survival is to get the attention and approval of our parents or the people around us so that they can give us milk, they can give us attention, they can give us safety. And I think that's where the self-esteem could come from as well. It's like us fighting for that survival by getting approval and likes from other people. That validation from other people means that we're able to survive longer.
I know, like for me, I had this story in my head. I remember the day still. It was like in a gym class when I was young, and this girl called me roly-poly.
Oh.
And I like had this image that like I was, overweight and not good enough. And like then when in high school, mostly, I just like never dated at all. Like I had no interactions. And I think I always tied it back to that. But where the reality was I was probably getting in my own head and then not actually even like pursuing anything and like expecting it to come to me. In my mind, I made this association that because I didn't deem myself to look like, the people that were like in media and stuff that were, getting all the guys and all that was why it wasn't happening for me. And I think I carried that like into even like early adulthood. So then like when you met someone and they showed interest, you were like, oh, but then it wasn't like a good relationship in any way.
Well, that's the validation trap in many ways, right? It's like our self-esteem is tied to other people's approval of us. But when we don't get approval from somebody, we then want to hide and shrink ourselves. But when you put yourself out there in dating, you are actually risking that to happen again, for someone to reject you or to show disapproval of you. So then anybody who does show that approval, we cling on to because we just can't handle the idea of someone disappointing us again or rejecting us again.
Yeah.
So that's the trap that repeats over and over again. It's like we want to shrink ourselves, yet we want to be out there, but we don't want to be putting ourselves too out there where we get rejected.
I think this also goes back to like the main character, but like not in a way that's actually serving you. Like I thought for so long that I was like kind of alone in facing this stuff. And then I remember when we did an episode about body image and dating, and all these people in our Facebook group put out like things that came to mind of insecurities they had. And this was across all body shapes and sizes and races and genders. And I was just like, damn, everyone has something.
Yeah.
Like, I think too, like these models of beauty, and it doesn't even have to be attractiveness. It could be like success or like all the things that like are deemed like what makes someone a good partner and successful. We all have insecurities. And until we resolve those insecurities with the work on our own, we'll always find it like needing the approval within others.
And now with social media and the internet, it's just in our face. We see how many likes someone gets. We see the comments that they get. We don't see the filters that they use, but we certainly see the perfection of someone's life. And it's not like we can just sit there and be like, don't compare. It's so natural for humans to sit there and compare. That's like what social media is for. We're constantly comparing ourselves against these very unrealistic, highly edited lives of other people.
I think it goes beyond social media too, like even in your social circles. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I think why I clung to these like bad relationships is so I could fit in. I could have someone to talk about. So I could be not the only single person in the group, even though I was showing up to events without anyone because the situationship wouldn't go with me, right? So I think it's one of those things that there's so much pressure to be where everyone else is. And if we're not like okay being on our own and waiting for like the right person, it's a slippery slope that you can kind of settle for these people that are less than because you're so focused on the validation.
I still remember the time that guy showed up to the event we were at. This guy Julie went on one date with.
Oh my God.
This is such a great example of don't be with someone just for the sake of being with someone. So like he was obviously not right for you, but we were going to this event. Julie had just gone on one date. It was just only one date, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I thought you were going to a different story, but keep going.
Okay, this is a guy where Julie's like just casually mentioned that we're going to be at this event. And then he showed up. It was very apparent Julie was not into this guy at all. And the whole time we were trying to like ditch him. I felt bad, but at the same time, it's like she didn't formally invite you. She just told you she was coming to this event.
Oh my God. I was thinking of a different story.
Wait, which one?
I was thinking of when we did one of our Dateable live events, like way back in the day. There was this guy that showed up that I was like, pretty like kind of obsessed with. Again, like why didn't work out? There's something wrong with me. And then like 5 years later, I was like, what's your name again?
Yeah, who are you again?
I mean, I think, I don't know. The first guy that you mentioned, I don't know if that was like, would you view it as he was seeking validation? I viewed it that he was just lonely and socially inept and didn't pick up on the signs.
I think it's proof that if you think being with someone fits you into the social circle, right? Like just being with anybody and having someone show up, that's going to do something for you. That was like proof that actually detracted from the experience.
That's true. It's one of those things I finally like got very comfortable being like the fifth or seventh wheel, and to the point that I'm just like, I don't care. Mm-hmm. But I think for a long time, like I remember even like after my big breakup, like obviously there was the fact that I wasn't with this person anymore, but there was a lot of like, I'm going to get left behind. Like all my friends are getting married and now I'm super single. And, you know, it makes you cling to people because of things that really honestly don't even have to do with the person you're dating.
But then it goes back to we think relationships will save us. It's going to make everything better. It's going to bring up our self-esteem. We're going to feel validated. And guess what? A relationship doesn't do any of that. You still have to do all of that for yourself.
I mean, I think at the root of it too, like dating is really freaking vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Right? There is a fear of rejection that all of us have. Like, even if you don't even like the person that much, no one wants to be rejected. But I think that at the end of it it's really having to like take yourself out of it and be like, this rejection doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't mean that I'm less than or I'm not enough. All it means is that we weren't the right fit. and I'm going to use this as a way to like pave to find that better fit. But that's really like a hard mental model. I think like it's very natural to go to a place of like, I was rejected by someone, even if you didn't even like them that much, to something was wrong.
I know. And we sort of catastrophize the rejection part. My friend who recently went through a breakup, he was a terrible guy, but she was like, am I going to find any other men who find me attractive?
Yeah.
That's where her mind went to. I'm like, this one example of a piece of shit who rejected you does not mean the entire world doesn't want to be with you. But that's where she went with her head. And I was like, wow, that's too much.
I wanted to read like one quote from our book because I was like, how do I summarize this? And I'm like, but it is so well written.
Please
that
quote
like
our book.
I don't, like a little teaser, but this was one line that we have in the validation trap section. So while we know logically that dating doesn't define our worth, it's easier said than done not to look for validation. When you put yourself out there in the dating world, you're opening yourself in the most vulnerable way. In what other context would you put your photo online for someone to look at for 7 seconds? Yes, that's all it takes to form an impression and decide yes or no. Or for someone to determine within an hour of mini golf if they can envision a life with you. At the core of it, you're asking someone to love you, to choose you, to be with you. And if they don't, of course that will sting. So the reason I wanted to read this is because, like, I think, again, it's all natural that we go there. Like, I get that. And it's actually, like, really why it's a trap, ultimately, is because that is the default state. Because this is deeply personal when it comes to matters of the heart and, wanting someone to choose you ultimately. But I think we need to remember that like rejection doesn't always equate to that. There's so many reasons why something couldn't work out that doesn't always have to do with us and our worth. And if we're not right for that person, then we're going to be right for someone else.
It's about being so strong in who you are that the people who are not ready for you or right for you will then just fall off. But if you're the wavering one, and you're the one kind of like bending in every direction to get people to like you, then you're probably not going to get anybody who's strong enough to be with you.
Yeah.
Like that's the problem. We're just leaning on the other people.
I still go back to like before I met my partner, I got rejected more than I ever had in my life. Mm-hmm. And I think like an older version of me would have completely broken down and been like, something is wrong. Because I even remember like before we started this podcast, like having these feelings of like, why can't I ever get to a third date? Like something is wrong with me.
Yeah.
It really showed the growth that happened and like the work I'd put in that I was able to let it roll and be like, okay, this person didn't work out. They either saw something or, if it's just not a fit, that's okay. I'm going to like move on to the next person. They're just clearing my path. Like changing that mindset was so instrumental because one, it also like makes dating a lot more enjoyable too when you're not like thinking about like what's wrong with you and all of that. And then it just made me more hopeful instead of spiraling into the negativity and wanting to take breaks or resign completely.
Yeah, I think it goes into the fact that this is a different way of looking at main character energy. The old main character energy you described was in reaction to other people.
Yes.
Rejecting you. And then this main character energy is you saying, well, they're just not right for me.
Yeah.
They're not going to hop on this train. That's okay.
It's okay.
Because this train is still going. I'm still moving in the direction I wanted to go.
I mean, I think so much of it comes down to attachment too and like unresolved issues. Like I was definitely a very anxious dater for so long, and it took a lot of work to get to more of a secure state. I'll never say I'm 100% there because I think you're never going to be 100% secure. But, feeling good about what you bring to the table and having that secure mindset of like, look, they're lost. Like, I'm still going. The train's still moving. I think that's huge.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just thinking, though, like of this story that one of our friends told me once. I'm just like, how deep this stuff can go. It's like she was saying how like she was the youngest of her siblings and she was like always fighting for her like brother's attention and they would never give it to her. So that was like a learned love model that she had. So she would do that with guys. Like I remember her just like pining over these guys that really had no interest in her at all. Like they blatantly were like, yeah, I'm not down for anything. Like maybe a hookup, but like nothing more. And she would, like, there was one time she literally chased one of them down the street.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
That to me though, it's like, there's something like proving, but also like it shows that so much of this runs real deep and comes from like our past and like how we were taught to get approval and to gain love and attention. I bring this up to have like grace for ourselves when we feel these patterns start to emerge, because it's not like something we're like, oh yeah, I'm just trying to get validation. Like this goes deep.
Yeah, it does go deep. The amount of times that we've chased people, like physically, mentally, metaphorically, I think. And then, our media loves to glorify the chase.
Yeah.
So we think the chase is to be earned, right? If you do get someone's attention, oh, you earned their attention. You earned their choice. But it's not about that, as we talked about here.
I think it's coming down to like, are you dating to like find that connection, or is it driven by ego? Because I think like ego, it's like admiration and validation. And like that goes back to like, self-assuredness and like the confidence boost that you're looking for in dating. Like I remember having a whole situation that was completely driven by ego. I've talked about this before, but like I had this friend that I was not interested in the slightest, that made a move. And basically was like, I have been like really into you. I want to be in a relationship with you. I want to do this. And at first I was like resisting because I'm like, I don't know. I just don't like see this person as someone serious and all that. But eventually I was like, I'll try it. I'll give it a shot. And then of course, by then he had decided that he didn't want a relationship anymore. Maybe miraculously after we slept together. But instead of walking away, what I should have done, been like, I actually didn't even like this person to begin with. Like, this is a sign. Just, I put myself out there. It didn't work out. Moving on. I continued to double down. For 2 years, I doubled down. In my mind, I was like in love with this person. And looking back, it was all ego. Like, I didn't like that something was taken away from me, that I felt like this was someone that I viewed as like less than, that I was like, now they're turning it around, that I'm not good enough. Like that's where my mind went. And that is really fucked up when you're thinking about it and saying it out loud.
And then you're doing this reactive thing, right? You're not being proactive about your love life. You're literally being dragged around by this person based on their actions. And that's the core of the problem of seeking validation through ego, is that we get dragged around by people and we don't actually stand our ground. And that's kind of the problem. And then sometimes I also think about validation as if you're getting the response or getting rejected or getting less attention or more attention, it could be something that you're putting out there too. It could be like this energy shift. So dating in my late 30s was very different than dating in my late 20s. I remember going out to the bars in my late 20s and just getting hit on, like getting attention. It was also a different time back then when guys actually approach girls at bars and hit on them. But my energy in my 20s was thirsty. I was like, someone come talk to me, someone come buy me a drink. I'm ready to go. But in my late 30s, I felt like there was less of that attention. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, am I losing it? Am I just not attractive anymore? And then I realized it's the energy I'm putting out there. I'm not as thirsty. I'm going out with my friends for the sake of going out with my friends to have fun. I'm not like eyes wide open, thirst trap, trying to find anybody to come buy me a drink. So of course, if I'm not putting out that energy, I'm not going to be getting that same kind of attention. And so like the validation is so interesting because we complain about not getting enough matches or we're getting rejected, but maybe your energy is different. Like maybe you are just more sure of yourself. And that's probably a good thing that you're not getting that attention that you used to get.
But here's the irony to your story. You had way better, deeper connections with people in your 30s.
Of course.
Even though you were getting less quantity.
Yes.
And that's where it's a trap. Validation doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many matches and people getting your number. It's all about like, are they actually people that you could end up dating and being with? I would so much rather, and again, maybe this is a maturity thing too, because I wasn't always like this, but like I would rather go on 3 dates that are solid than go on like 30 dates that are just like me getting attention.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I always say this to my current partner because he's like, oh, you have a public facing Instagram. You must get all these random DMs from random guys. Like, I don't know what's going on, on social media. And I always say, like, I cut out riffraff in my life because I don't seek that kind of attention.
Yeah.
I'm not putting that energy out there. But yes, the old me in my 20s would have loved to have all these DMs, would have loved to have all this attention. But guess what? They're from dudes that have no intention of being in a relationship with me or being serious with me. So those eyeballs are less important than the ones that are like more serious and more intentional, right? It's not a numbers game here. And that's where we need to really have a clear mindset about validation is when does it matter and when does it absolutely not matter?
I just think of like what you described. It's like a cycle of attention.
Yeah.
Like if you were putting it out there, wanting to get all the DMs, the people that are drawn to doing that, they just want the attention. It just goes nowhere.
It's so bad.
I think it's just the wrong metrics. And I think it's hard because we've heard of this. And I think especially because dating is so public now. Like dating used to be like a private activity you would do. Like you would go home, even when like the online dating sites existed, like you would go on your like desktop computer in the privacy of your own home with a screen name. Now it's like out in the open, we're swiping with our friends. And there's like this like competition in a way. Like we've heard so many people be like, I don't get as many matches as my friends.
Who cares?
And like, who cares? Don't let that get you down. Like it's so easy though. And I get why it gets people down because it's so easy because it's a very tangible metric. But these metrics don't matter.
They don't matter at all. I'll give you an example that's stuck in my head forever, and it goes back to high school. I know that's irrelevant for many of us, but this stuck in my head. Until this day, I'm still like, I'm living by this right now. I was trying so hard. I went to high school in Colorado. I was the only Asian girl in my class. I tried so hard to fit in with the blonde cheerleaders because I wanted to date the quarterback or the football players. I bleached my hair. I dressed in Abercrombie. I just wanted to be so much like these girls who I will never be because I'm not a blonde girl. But I was like trying to morph myself into them so that I could get the attention of the guys that they were attracting. But I remember in my high school, the most successful couple who are still together today, and they were so happy throughout high school, were these two people who loved wearing long black trench coats. They were these kids, and there were two of them, and they found each other.
Yeah.
And there was no competition. Like, trust me, they were not trying to seek validation from any of the football players or cheerleaders. They saw each other and they were like, you are for me and I'm for you.
Let's do it.
I want to find my long black trench guy. That's it. You just need someone who is made for you. You're meant for each other instead of you molding into someone else trying to attract this other person who is not right for you.
Yeah, not being that dating chameleon.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay. Well, I definitely want to go into solutions. We've definitely outlined why this happens. I think hopefully this shed light for people that are like, oh, validation, I'm not doing that. And then you're like, oh, maybe I am a little. Mm-mm. But before we get into some solutions of how do we get over it and not fall for this trap, let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors.
With this holiday season, I have some major aspirations of learning a new language so I can be better prepped when I travel internationally next year. I feel like being able to speak the language in the country I'm visiting can open doors to meaningful conversations and better cultural appreciation. I mean, how else am I going to get the lowdown on how people date locally? And now with Rosetta Stone, the most trusted language learning program, I can make those new language dreams a reality. Available on desktop or as an app, Rosetta Stone truly immerses you in the language you want to learn. For example, there are no English translations, so you really have to learn to speak, listen, and think in that language, allowing for fast language acquisition. And the built-in true accent feature gives you feedback on your pronunciation, just like having a personal trainer for your accent. Don't put off learning that language. There's no better time than right now to get started. For a limited time, Dateable listeners can get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership holiday special. This offer will not last long. Visit rosettastone.com/today That's unlimited access to 25 language courses for the rest of your life. Redeem your holiday offer at rosettastone.com/today for yourself or as a gift that keeps giving.
November is one of my favorite months, with Thanksgiving around the corner, pumpkin spice lattes, and slipping into a cozy sweater from Quince. I already got my Mongolian cashmere sweater that's only $50, which I still can't get over how much of an absolute steal this is because they partner directly with top factories and cut out the cost of the middleman, which passes the savings on to us. And it's not just the sweaters. It's all of Quince's items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. As we speak, my ultra stretch straight leg pants are being shipped, and I cannot wait to pair them with my sweater because that sweater is so damn cozy, and if it was socially acceptable, I'd wear it every day. Get cozy in Quince's high quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/dateable for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/dateable to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/dateable. So I think the first step is acknowledgement that this can happen, and dating is often more than what's on the surface. Like I always say that dating is a mirror. Like there's always that deeper issue coming up. Like when you get ghosted, it's usually not the person that ghosted, but some abandonment trauma that's coming back up. Or, you know, the person that flaked on you, like a prioritization wound. Or just like when someone tells you there's no romantic connection, that this feeling like you might not be enough or too much. So I think just being aware of like what are these unmet wounds and challenges that you still face and insecurities, because we all have them. No one's immune to it.
Yeah.
And I don't think we need to pretend like they're not there. I think that's what I did for so many years. Be like, have this false sense of confidence, but like to step back and be like, okay, this does bring something up for me. And then when it happens in dating that the rejection happens or someone isn't, you know, committing in the way you want, instead of going to it's personal, you can be like, okay, it is personal, but not because of this person. It's personal because this is still there for me.
Right.
Like, how do I work to heal this, not through a person?
And similarly, it's knowing that dating and relationships can't heal you and they can't complete you. So when you do have those moments where you're feeling low, like you're not getting the validation you want, sit with that feeling and think about, okay, this doesn't feel good. Why is that? Is it because I don't feel attractive enough? I don't feel smart enough. I don't feel I'm enough in whatever way. Then ask yourself, what can I do for myself right now to feel validated in that way? I used to put on this sparkly dress just so I could feel like I had the charisma back, right? To have the self-confidence back and say, I can bring this for myself. I don't need to get all of those matches, but know that you have the power to complete yourself in that way that validation doesn't need to provide for you.
I think it's also just like thinking about like relationships aren't like this higher up. You've said this before, Yue. It's like they're both just states of being. Like being single, being in a relationship, it's not that one is better than the other, although our society tells us that being in a relationship is way better. There's like this like hierarchy, right? Of like single at the bottom, being in a relationship, being engaged, being married. And it's like that is not how it is. Like if you're in an unhappy marriage, how is that actually better than being single and having the opportunity to meet someone wonderful? But because we think this way, that's when we, you know, try to get validation from others. So how do you take yourself out of that and appreciate each stage and remember that like relationships won't save you and being single won't destroy you?
And listen, when you don't regulate your need for validation while you're single, it will affect your relationship. This is what makes people cheat because they don't have the validation they're looking for from their partners. This is why people get contentious in relationships because they're still hungry and thirsty for that validation from their partner. So just remember, like, if we don't address it alone, then we're going to bring that to a relationship.
And it's like, how do you seek from within? And I love the example you gave about the sparkly dress. I'm trying to think of like other ways. I mean, I think affirmations for me have helped, or just like journaling and looking at like, what do I bring to the table that's outside of like, what other people think, but just like core to who I am. I think just stepping back and like giving yourself that like compassion when you're looking for it from others. I think, again, it's natural when something doesn't work out. But being able to be like, this is what it's bringing up for me. These are the emotions. Being okay feeling instead of suppressing it. And then coming back to like, okay, how do I fill my own cup here?
Look for evidence against whatever it is that you're feeling terrible about. If you're like, I'm never going to find someone else again. Well, look for all the evidence when you did attract other people. I'm not attractive enough. Well, think of all the circumstances where you were attractive to all kinds of people. Find evidence against that negative feeling.
I think that's why it's so good to hear other people's stories, because we always think like the people that are in relationships just like was so easy for them. It just worked out. And we don't know like they went through the same struggles and like, yeah, eventually it works out. If you really want to be in a relationship, eventually you will find that right relationship if you get out of your own way. I really believe that. But I think like looking at the proof, I love what you were just saying with that. Like that is how we can see that it's not just us. It's not us as a victim. It's not us as needing to get this validation from others.
And I find that in my old pattern is when I don't get the validation I want, I shrink myself. I try to be as invisible as possible. And now I try to challenge myself to expand, to take up more space when I feel like my ego is hurt. Because I need to prove to myself that I can make myself bigger and more important and be seen and heard instead of having other people dictate that for me.
And again, I just want to reiterate, because I think that what you just said, it's like, this is so natural for us all to go here. We're not saying that there's something wrong if you seek validation in dating. It's more just like recognize that it's a trap getting in your way. I think our instinct is to seek validation.
Yes.
But how do we like, not rely on it? So we're just being like, I'm going to be the chooser and put myself in the driver's seat instead of waiting to get chosen and feeling like, if someone doesn't choose me, there's something fundamentally wrong, or I'll never find the love I'm looking for.
Life is not a pageant. Dating is not a popularity contest, even though it can feel that way, even though these dating shows put us in the mindset.
I think dating shows add to this for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It makes you feel like everyone's like trying to be the best so that someone would choose them. But it's not a contest. It's not a pageant. And know that you get to do the choosing. Your choices are not dictated by other people.
In our book, we have a saying called the Bachelor Vortex.
Yeah.
And I think it's so true. It's like, even like I was recently watching like the latest season of Love is Blind. And it's just like how much they crave from others. And I understand like it's a TV show. You need to stay on. But like, it's like how much you'll put up with to try to like, quote unquote, win the show and stay to the end. I'm glad actually this season, a lot of them just like left and didn't make it to the altar.
Yes.
Because they're like, look, this isn't right for me. Like, I know this is an experiment, but like, it's not right.
I also hate that they rank the contestants. Like, you were my first choice or you were my second choice.
Right.
I hate that because in reality, you may end up being someone's second, third, fourth choice because the other ones came before you or they were not the right fit. I don't think that's an indication of your worth. It's just how things pan out sometimes.
I also don't like it because, like, if someone's your second choice, like there's someone that's like the right fit for you, that should just be the only choice. There shouldn't be like the backup if they say no. Like, I mean, pending like you're just not giving this person a full chance because you're caught up on things that don't matter. That's a whole different story.
Sure.
But let's say you're like, I actually don't really like this person, but I just want to keep going in this show. Like, that's kind of messed up.
I just want to be their first.
Right.
I just want to be everybody's first.
I mean, I think at the end of every date, like we're always asking, like, did the person like me? Like, we really need to turn it to, do I like them? Like, that's the only question that matters. And then if you need two more questions, like, do I like how they're treating me? And like, how do I feel with this person?
And if you do like them, let them know.
Yeah.
Let them know. I had a great time. I think that there's something here. I'd love to see you again.
And really honing in, do I genuinely like them or is it just the ego talking?
Yes.
Because like the Love is Blind example, I think a lot of them it's the ego talking. I want to be picked. I want to keep going. I want to keep progressing.
I want to be their number one. Yep.
Yeah. But that happens in real life too, sadly.
We're all falling for this trap. Every day we're falling for this trap in every aspect of our lives. But we just have to know that it exists and we have to just know how to regulate it when it does come up.
Yeah. And I think with rejection, the shift is how do you go from rejection is just redirection? Because I think that really puts you into that main character energy in the way that actually is beneficial of being like, I'm still on the path. I'm looking for the person that's right for me. And if that person wasn't it, then that's just redirection.
Rejection shouldn't even be our vocabulary. There's no such thing.
I know. I get it. Like we put up a post recently and someone's like, but it's just so hard. It really does eat at my self-esteem.
Sure, yeah.
And I get it. It's a hard shift to make, especially if it feels like it keeps happening over and over again. But we really need to remember that like 99% of people we go on dates with will not be matches. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean there's something flawed with you. It's just the way it is.
It's a good thing too, to know what's not right for you. It means that you're clear on what is right for you.
Yeah. Okay, well, so much to unpack, but even more to unpack in our book, because this is really just scratching the surface here. We go way, way deeper of, how do we understand this trap even more, but also use it in our power and have it be something that helps propel us in our journey opposed to hinder it. And then how do we break free and then finally find that relationship that is right for us?
Yes. And in our book, we have a quiz that gives you your dating archetype.
Yes.
Which within that archetype, it's basically like how you date, not in a good or bad way, just characteristics. But then we highlight the traps so you are more susceptible to fall for. And of course, we fall for all these traps, but for each archetype, we go into more detail that's more personalized for you. So just another shout out to our book and how excited we are to bring it to you in January of next year.
Yes, so if you haven't yet, make sure to do that pre-order like we mentioned. You also get a bunch of free gifts because we know that pre-ordering is kind of a weird thing, but it's something in this industry and, it really helps make this book a success. So if you're already like, yeah, I'm going to get this book, get it now because one, you don't even get charged until it comes in January. But also you'll get a bunch of freebies from us, including our modern dating survival guide, and then also managing dating anxiety audio that we have, and 25 questions to ask within the first month of dating someone, which I think is so good because people are always like, how do I ask the right things, but not pepper someone with questions, but have enough info that I know this is someone I should be pursuing. So we're giving you all of that to tide you over until January. So go to howtobedateable.com. Step 1, order from one of the retailers, the one that works best for you. It can be audio, it can be Kindle, it can be hardcover, whatever format. And then you just put the order number in and then you get your gifts.
Voila! It's the easiest way to get free shit.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm glad that we were able to go into all of this. I think this for me is a topic that's near and dear because I think it severely got in my way with dating and how personally I took things. And once I was able to lift that up, like my whole dating life changed.
It's one of the traps of modern dating we hope to help you out of in our book and also in our content, because there is a way. You don't need to be part of this daily grind of seeking validation of all these traps of modern dating that are setting you up to fail. So this is our message to you, and we hope that this was very helpful for you to take some action. You can also find out more about the content that we're doing at dateablepodcast.com. That's our website. Why don't you leave us some feedback by giving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts? 5 stars, please. And in the body of the review, you can tell us something you learned from this episode, or maybe a trap that you're falling for, or how validation trap is affecting you. If you do have feedback for us to take on, you can put it in the body of a review, or you can just email us, hello@dateablepodcast.com. We check all of the emails, or you can DM us on Instagram at dateablepodcast is the handle.
Okay.
We're going to wrap up this episode.
Stay dateable.